Whoa, got me? All right. Hey, all. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is a little bit of an awkward time. We're usually with you between, around the 7 or 8 p.m. time. But we are absolutely thrilled, and I've had a wonderful discussion already so far in the last 20, 30 minutes with our good friend Dan, who's with Grandeur Rum. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're in the area. You told us they're going to be in Chicago. Thank you for taking the few minutes, 60 minutes probably, 75 minutes maybe with traffic. I don't know what the traffic was like getting here, but thank you for kind of detouring your process to spend a little bit of time with us. And hopefully, hang on for a little while. We're going to talk about a few things right now, but Dan revealed the samples that he brought with us for a potential barrel pick. It's going to blow your minds what's over there, honestly. I'm super excited about a couple of them. Trenton already knows which one's particular that I'm excited about trying. So thank you, Dan. I just want everybody to recognize Dan today and thank him, if you can, for his courtesy and his generosity to be here with us today. So, Dan, we spoke before, and the folks out there know too, my problem is when it comes to whiskey, spirits in general, is I like them all. That's my problem. I told you that a little earlier. I know Trenton's, his taste buds are a little bit more specific. My wife's, hers is next to none. So we didn't have time to talk about that, but she really doesn't like much of anything down here, to tell you the truth. Maybe a mixed cocktail that's super sweet every once in a while.
Well, to be fair, that's like my wife too.
Well, there you go. There you go. But I'm really eager to learn, and I really want the folks out there to be able to take a little bit of a grasp of what you do, maybe how you got into it.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the distillation or the process of any kind of rum in general. I just know that I have some bottles that I truly enjoy. So if you want to take a minute and share a little bit about yourself, I would really appreciate that.
Well, so first of all, thanks for having me. I'm so super excited to be actually standing behind this bar. I've seen it so many times, and it's just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, in person than on TV But no, thanks for having me. And rum. Rum is a interesting category. It's incredibly diverse. But about me, I grew up in Kentucky, and so I grew up a bourbon guy. I love bourbon whiskey. Right. I love rye whiskey. I still do today.
Wow. Okay.
I down the road, I had a thought or a perception of what I thought rum was, and a very uneducated perception. And I usually felt rum was mainly something that you mixed with. You created and fun cocktails.
Absolutely. Most people, I think, would.
Pina coladas or rum and cokes or daiquiris, whatever, mojitos. So a lot of good cocktails. But I thought that was pretty much the whole universe of rum. And it wasn't until probably 15 years ago I found myself with a poured glass of aged rum, and I was holding it in my hand, and I was a little scared because I wasn't sure what I was doing or getting myself into, but I tasted it, and I was shocked that this aged rum had so much flavor that, and rum is very different than bourbon, but there were some similar flavor notes going on there as well.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is something that, so for me, bourbon or rye, sometimes I find myself drinking it neat or over an ice cube or in a cocktail.
Sure.
And when I had this glass of rum, I'm like, this is something I can do like a bourbon. I drink it neat right now, but I can put it over a cube of ice or make a cocktail. And so that experience opened this door for me personally to jump into and discover this world of rum that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And so that maybe it gets, at my wife's, pulling her hair out, but it led me down this whole rabbit hole of and not rabbit hole bourbon, but the rabbit hole of rum.
Sure.
and I ended up launching Grander Rum.
That's
if you fast forward, and skip over a lot of things.
That's right. That's all right. I'll tell you what, Dan. I think I might have had one or two. I don't know, Trenton. I don't know. Forgive Trenton too. He's behind the camera today. A little later on, I got to record tomorrow's video by myself too, because Trenton is quite a bit under the weather and he can barely speak back there. And when he does, he sounds like he could sing bass in a original men's quartet.
Yeah, I'm not doing too well back here.
He's not a poor fella. So
this is not a voice filter either. This is purely coming out.
Not a poor guy. He's not doing the best at the moment. So he may or may not be tasting with us. We'll see how he does. But I think I might have had one or two bottles of rum possibly when I ran across Grander. And specifically for the folks out there, I heard about Grander Rum through Lance at the Whiskey Tornado. Now, Lance has a somewhat smaller scale YouTube channel, but one thing I do appreciate about Lance, I do watch his shows quite frequently. And one thing is for certain, if I'm conflicted with a certain bottle and I would like to get another opinion or two, Lance is one I will pull up because he will give his honest opinions. 100% on that. And the very first bottle that he mentioned to me was this particular bottle here. This is a single barrel I picked up in one of our travels in Tennessee. This was the aged 10-year Grander Panama rum, finished in toasted oak barrels.
Yeah. It's a nice one.
Phenomenal. I mean, he wasn't lying.
Yeah.
It was so good. And then in our other travels, I ended up also picking up this one here, Dan. And this one you told me was finished in a Weller wheated bourbon barrel. So this is another one. This was a 12-year finished in a Weller bourbon barrel, and that is equally as delicious. Both of them fantastic. And I may have 10 rums back there that I would consider sipping rums.
Yeah.
I won't mix with.
Yeah.
And of course, those two are there too. And then, Dan, you were so kind. Once you've talked to Trenton, you had sent us over some other bottles. You sent us this 8-year toasted bottle that you sent along our way. This one's that was just a single barrel, right?
No, that's a trophy release, which actually is a small batch.
Okay.
Of that one is fun for me because each release we come out with is going to be different from the last. But I'm picking out barrels myself from our warehouse in Panama.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find some really interesting barrels that I will then put together into a small batch or a blend, however you want to call it, and create something that's really just has a lot of character and really begins to showcase some of the different barrels we have aging down in Panama.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's another thing, folks. Dan is in Panama quite a bit. He does live stateside, but all of his operations are in Panama.
Right.
That's what you told me on that one too. And then the last one here that you sent our way, Dan. Gotta look at that one again. So this is
that's just
so
that's kind of our everyday regular 8-year-old product.
Okay, so this doesn't go through any of your finishing processes.
Nope.
This is just the 8-year rum right here, which is all of these folks were super good. All of them in their own way and have their own flavor profiles. All of them were delicious.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, in my opinion. So these were great.
It's rum is a incredibly diverse category, and rum. The one thing about so for bourbon, as most people know, it has to be 51% corn.
Yeah,
and then after that
Yes.
you can decide how much rye or malt or whatever you want to put in there. But rum has to be, its source ingredient is 100% from the sugar cane.
Okay.
And so typically in the rum world, you're either going to use the juice from the sugar cane to ferment, or you're going to use molasses. And of course, molasses is a byproduct of when you take the sugar cane, crush it, cook it down to extract sugar from it. And so the byproduct of that process is molasses.
Okay. I have a question for you, and I truly don't want to put you on the spot, and I'm hoping that I'm not, because in my meager knowledge of rum, I have read other people's comments and also in different articles. And I'm gonna pull out Diplomatico.
Yep.
I don't know if you're familiar, but folks kind of trash on that because I guess it's high sugar. Is that what it is, or
Yeah.
do you have any idea where I'm coming from here?
Yeah.
I certainly
do.
apologize for my lack of knowledge in your territory
And
and what the differences might be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, rum producers, particularly in the U.S., when you go through the legal labeling requirements of rum producers can use additives if they want.
Okay.
So, such as
that's kind of where
sugar is considered an additive.
Okay.
Adding sugar into a product, coloring, flavors, and so some of the diplomatical products, to my knowledge, do have a degree of sugar back added into it, and I don't know their process. So
and I'm not trying to get you to expound on their product.
Yeah,
I was just bringing out something that I had read and some other folks who had commented, kind of trashing that brand for the additives that were involved. So with bourbon, as you know, in the States, there's no such thing.
Right.
You can't, you cannot have additives.
Exactly.
However, in Scotch per se, there are folks that will add coloring, possible flavorants to it. There's other spirits, we can go on down the line, that will do that. And I personally try to educate myself to the best of my abilities to purchase spirits that are more have a lot of integrity to it. So I had Diplomatico down here. I mixed with it. It was in part of my rotation with rums. Well, I have no clue. I didn't know. I don't know. You don't know until you know, right?
And a lot of people like that as well. So there's a clear market for that. And but I'm like you. I think for me, it's important to have transparency.
Yes.
Because I think for a consumer who's going to lay down their hard-earned money on a product, they should have the opportunity to understand what is in that product and decide and even some people who know there's sugar added into a particular product still are fine with that and love it. And that's okay. That's
all right.
But some people don't want it.
That's right.
And so I think transparency is really important for not just the rum industry, but I think, many other spirit categories as well.
I cannot agree with you more. I'm also dipping my toe a decent amount in the tequila world.
Yeah, same.
As you know, same.
Yep.
And those of us still, I know we can't have the additives as far as bourbon is concerned, but there's still on some labels needs to be more transparency than what they give you.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to navigate the category. And that's, for rum, that's, I think, one of the challenges because rum is so diverse, that being one example of it. But then also you have rums that are made from the juice of the cane agricole rums, which have a very different tasting profile.
I got some down there. Just for mixing, very funky.
Yep. And then you have Jamaican funk rums. And then you have
Trenton kind of digs that a little bit.
I mean, and then you have, Grander, which, is an old terminology, maybe Spanish style, which is typically refers to molasses-based column distilled rum.
Okay.
Which is going to be, smooth essence, but also some of the Spanish style rums do back add sugar to it. I don't do that.
Okay.
And the reason why I don't do that is I didn't come at it from a purist perspective. I actually came from my bourbon roots, and knowing that bourbon, it's on one hand, it's really a simplistic process, and it's really the artistry behind it that creates these wonderful products. And,
absolutely.
And so for me, I wanted to do the same with rum. I wanted to just rely on the, I guess, that artistry and just the simple process of trying to create something that is nice to enjoy and experience without having to, adjust it back in a lab. And so that was my approach. I wanted to stick something that resonated with me from a bourbon perspective.
Well, thank you for that. I truly wasn't trying to paint you in a corner.
No, I think it's an important question to ask.
I wasn't really actually even trying to dish that your way. I just had curiosity with what those standards were with rum. But I'm really glad. I'm thrilled actually that you don't. I really am.
and I just, one thing I want to add, and then we can move on. But I think for a lot of consumers out there who I meet with a lot of people and I do tastings, and a lot of people will come back and say, "Oh, rum is too sweet for me," and odds are they had a rum that was sweetened, and then that turned them off on the category.
Yes.
And so I think, which is why I'm excited to be here, because there's a whole other world of rum out there that is not like that.
Yes, no. And I think we did I spoke to you before when we were kind of getting acquainted. We did one rum show. That's it, right, Trey? We just did one. It's been probably a year ago, so you folks can look it up if you want to, but all of those that we displayed on that particular show, I couldn't tell you one way or the other if they added sugar, if they didn't. Right. I'm assuming not. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but all of them were exactly how you just described of a sipping experience, similar to the bourbon and rye and whiskeys and things like that. They weren't overly sugared or super sweet. And that's what I truly enjoy too. So thank you for all that history, Dan. You kind of enlightened me on a few things when it comes to rum. You want to explain to the people what you brought with you down here as far as your samples are concerned?
Yeah.
So I looked at that. I was like, oh.
So I like to do a lot of barrel finishes.
Yeah.
And so I will. Personally, so back up, Grander Rum, I have a relationship with a distillery down in Panama. So this rum is, I like to say, 100% Panamanian, from distillation, aging, and bottling. So everything is done down in Panama. And one of the really nice things is the distillery also grows their own sugarcane. So our raw ingredients are locally grown. And that's
amazing.
Yeah.
When it comes to terms of bourbon, we refer to it as grained glass.
Right.
So it's basically caned glass.
Yeah.
So with your distillery down there, that's awesome.
And the distillery, they've have opened their doors to allow me to do things that maybe normally they haven't done in the past. Single barrels being one of them. They had never actually bottled single barrels.
Wow.
But I buy barrels. So one of the places I buy from is Independent Stave, Cooperage.
Okay.
And they have a nice warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky, where they buy back barrels from distilleries that they have supplied barrels to. And also they buy back from distilleries that they haven't provided barrels to. So when you walk into their warehouse, it's almost like walking into a candy shop, because you have so many different barrels.
You should take Trent with you next time.
It's very nice. Of course, they're all empty, Trenton. So I'm not sure if you're going to be too excited.
You said the
about
word
that.
candy. That's his. I saw his eyes light up real quick there for that.
I will. I'll buy a number of barrels and ship them down to Panama, and then we'll fill it up with an aged rum of Grander rum. And so for me, I like adding these different layers of flavors and aromas that these barrels will provide.
Yeah.
And I really feel that my rum with these barrels creates a really unique, interesting, flavorful experience that people will enjoy.
Yep.
I certainly do, so I hope others do.
Oh, I 100% agree. Yeah, just even with a few that I have here that I experienced with you, it's a whole other level of rum.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
I appreciate that. So, so for this one, for an example, what we have here is I acquired some Weller wheated bourbon barrels. And so we took that barrel and we filled it up with 8-year-old rum. And so it'll be just over a year in that Weller barrel.
Okay.
That rum. So it'll be a 9-year-old rum.
Sure.
And interesting enough, if you could imagine in Panama, it's very hot, tropical climate.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So the barrels are pretty much open. There's no, closing of the barrel, the seasonal effect that maybe you get in Kentucky or other areas with the barrel.
Yeah.
So it's always, those barrels are always open, porous, and so that immediately that rum is interacting with that wood. And then in year one, we will fill those barrels up, but in year one, we will lose 10 to 12% out of the gate.
Yeah, I can imagine with that kind of weather, that's going to affect that.
The other interesting thing is, due to the weather, we lose alcohol at a faster rate than water. So our proof actually will reduce over time.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's exciting. All right, what we got next?
So the second one actually is finished in a Wild Turkey rye barrel.
Yeah, I know. Looking forward to that one. Folks know the Wild Turkey is kind of one of my faves. Any Wild Turkey.
The third one actually is another wheated bourbon barrel, and this is Old Fitzgerald.
Wow.
And then the last one is in a Blanton's barrel.
What? In an old Blanton's barrel, Trenton. Yeah. Wait till I tell the drinking buddy that. See if he's done that before.
Now, interesting enough, these are all 9 years. So these will have been in the barrel for just over a year. This one, less than a year. It's still considered an 8-year-old.
Well, I think it's important too, and I know we discussed this before the camera came on, but Dan is a believer also in first fill.
Yes.
When it comes to his finishing process. And what I mean by that is when he retains those barrels, such as the Wild Turkey, such as the Weller, such as the Old Fitz, when he puts his rum into that barrel, it's the very first time any other spirit has been dumped back in that used barrel. That's very important because I was telling Dan before, when Trent and I went our first trip to Old Elk, we tasted a ported barrel that was a finished barrel that was just mind-blowing, but we couldn't secure one at that time. Our second trip, we went back down there, we tasted them again, and we were all looking at each other with this funny look like, that's nothing what we remembered it to be. And even the head distiller there, Mo was her name, she agreed. She let it sit for a few more months. Long story short, what we found out that this was their second fill. So this is their second attempt in finishing in the same barrels. It makes a huge difference. I love it that all these samples are first fill into its finishing process. So I'm really happy for that as well. I'm going to start pouring into some of this stuff. Dan, you can taste with us. I know you're traveling. You don't have to if you don't want to.
I'll taste I'll do a little bit.
It's okay. Whatever you're comfortable with. I don't want you to have to. I want you to be responsible to it.
Can you pour me A through D? I'm going to do the best I can with that.
We can.
This is a pretty rare opportunity. I'm not missing this up. I'll say that much.
Well, I'm going to do one.
You're fighting through your commitment is.
Yeah, and I'm very dedicated, and who knows, the rum might help my throat a little bit. So I'll take that gamble.
It might, Trenton. It might.
Just slide on me. That's good. Perfect. Gives me a.
We actually did an Old Elk rye finished in a rum agricole barrel. I'd be interested to see what you think as somebody who's probably tasted quite a bit of rum.
That's over there.
It was way off the wall. We took a gamble on it, but I think anybody who got one was a big fan. I think at least.
That would be that would be really wild actually. Agricole is such a distinctive, unique flavor.
That was the time when I had to truly kind of talk to everybody that was there with us. My brother, that's the one. Wasn't Jay and Kevin with us?
It was Jay and Kevin, yeah.
It was kind of off the wall. Man, it was so good. I'll have to have you have just a tiny taste before you leave. All right, buddy.
This is what, Finn, the Weller?
Yep. All right, for everybody that's watching and for Trenton here, this is the Grander Rum 9-year-old. It's in a Weller wheated barrel, finished in a Weller wheated barrel, and we're going to be tasting it at 110 proof.
So if you walk through our aging warehouse, it's not a typical rick house that you would go through. It is all of our barrels are palletized.
Okay.
And they're sitting upright.
Okay.
And usually we stack them maybe 6 layers. And everything is put in there. So
okay, yeah, that's good to know too. I wouldn't have thought to even ask you that.
Yeah, it's a very different experience and that's pretty typical for a Caribbean-based warehousing. I think some have invested in rick houses, but I'd argue that most of them are going to be palletized like that.
And these don't get proofed down during bottling, correct?
No, they don't. So, interesting enough, these are hand bottled. And I mean literally hand bottled from the barrel.
Wow.
And you have people actually taking rum out of the barrel and then filling up the bottles manually.
Wow.
So there's no they're not dumping it into a machine or anything. They're just taking.
They're taking it from the barrel.
Interesting. That's cool.
Now I do call it uncut, unfiltered, but we do. And I guess, it goes to a definition of what's filtering, but it's not in the sense of where you have a very tight mesh. It's just to make sure we don't get any
bits and pieces.
But so some of our bottlings, depending on where it was, you may have a little sediment at the bottom, which is okay.
I'm okay with that. I got an independent bottler. I got an independent bottled Scotch back there called Blackadder, where they don't filter anything.
All right.
There's
Okay. Yeah.
legit stuff floating around in there, but it's really good. It's super oily. I mean, you get the sip at its truest form, which is basically what you're going to get here too. Then the aromas on this one, Trenton, come on now, seriously, you can't smell. Sorry, I mean, I'm even looking at you, but I guess you'll have to trust me. It's delightful. It's buttery. It's really nice.
Sorry if you already answered this, Dan, but when you do the finishing in the Weller barrels or Bland's barrels or whatever, do you do that finishing or the aging in Panama, or do you take that back to Kentucky and age it there?
Great question. No, everything is done in Panama.
Okay.
So for me, it's important to. I feel that the climate down there is. I like aging down there. I like finishing. So for me, I mean, it's obviously an added expense shipping my barrels from Kentucky down to Panama, and doing that, and then bottling and then shipping back. But for me, that's important to have the full Panama experience for the rum.
Seems like a good excuse to hang out down there a little bit more too.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to visit. Actually, I forgot about we have one other one.
Okay.
Sample.
Hey.
We'll get to that one.
Fine by me. This was glorious in itself, Dan. I'm just gonna be honest about it.
And then we have these are all questions from the good folks in the chat. What's the primary barrel type for the first 8-year aging? We're sipping on a Woodford finished Grander 10-year right now. It's absolutely delicious.
Oh, fantastic.
That's from Michael.
Thank you, Michael. So that's a great question. And so aging, all of our aging primarily is done in ex-bourbon barrels, and that's common in the rum world.
Good to know. I wouldn't have known that either. It's a good question.
And but what's also common in the rum world is we're allowed to reuse the barrel over and over.
Okay.
So you can use it as many times as you want.
Yep.
And as you're aware, every time you use that barrel, just like that port finish, it's given up.
Extracting flavors after flavors,
and so after a while, the barrel can reach a neutral status. And so my 8-year-old product is aged in barrels we've used on average 2 to 3 times. So we're still going to get some influence from the oak, but it's not going to be extreme as if it was our first fill.
Okay. All right.
And to be fair, a lot of rum producers are not trying to create a bourbon experience, or they're trying to, they want something that's been that's going to impart less, but there's still a lot of good flavors and characters they do want to get. So it's a balance.
I get you. To me, trying to know about you, to me, I think from my perspective, it's more important to get that first fill on your finish process.
Yes.
For me. That's just me.
No, I agree.
I love this one. I mean, there's nothing I can say that's bad about it. It's really delicious. To tell you the truth, I'm not super specific in rum content and tasting notes and everything else, but it's a beautiful, warming.
It's down to what you enjoy as an individual.
I'm coming straight off a Ricola with some honey infused center, so I'm not sure how important my feedback is going to be, but this is really good. I really like this one.
There's a lot of stuff in there going on. It's beautiful. All right, we're going to move on to the next one.
Okay. So, is there a particular order you want to go through?
No, I don't care what you give me. That's fine by me.
I mean, I'm not really sure.
Whatever you feel
I didn't really
best.
put a lot of thought into it.
And neither do we most of the time. So
okay, well then
you're going to fit in real good right here.
I'll let you do the honor.
Sure. All right, guys, this is the 9-year-old and Wild Turkey rye casks. This one's 110.6 proof.
Of course, you're excited about this one.
Yeah, it made me smile just a touch, Trent, just a touch. You like a little taste of this one?
Sure, yeah, why not? And so to let you know as well, when I bottle these, I can't use those trademark names. I haven't been cleared by any of those companies.
Right.
So
that's right. So that's why. Okay, well, I'm glad you said that actually, because when Dan, there you go, Trent. Thanks, buddy. When Dan first came down,
Use these.
okay, when Dan first came down. I'm gonna line them up here with my glasses so I know which one's which, because I'm sure I'll have to go back and kind of confirm a few things. But when Dan first came down, basically on the bottles that I purchased, it basically just says a wheated.
yes,
So that you have to be non-specific
right.
on which bourbon barrel it
Right.
came from. So this is just wheated. This is okay, and that makes more sense now. Because there was a lot of, I think it was Lance, and again, Lance is a great guy. I think he did say that he heard that it was finished in a Weller foolproof
Right.
barrel, but in our conversations, all you really knew it was a Weller wheat.
Correct. Yeah, that barrel, it was definitely a Weller barrel. I just don't know if it was
The Weller 12.
Right. Yeah.
There's all kinds of Weller
Exactly.
wheat options. Let's just put it
Exactly.
that way, right?
Exactly.
No, that's fine. That's good. Good to know. So basically, let's say we pick this bottle here that's finished in a Wild Turkey rye cask. Basically, you would put on the label "finished in rye whiskey
Yeah.
casks."
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, I get it.
it would be, so typically my finishes, it'll be called out as a wheated. So it's been in a wheated bourbon barrel. Toasted oak will be in a barrel that was used to finish bourbon in a new toasted oak barrel, like a Woodford Double Oak or the Buzzard's Roost
Yep.
toasted barrel.
Yep.
I do a rye, which is finished in the rye. Then I do the oaks, which is, then we just have a bourbon. So like a Blanton's, it would be called the oaks.
Oh, okay. That's why I saw that. I think on the label.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha. All right.
That keeps it easier for me to, I don't have to get a new label from the TTB
Yeah.
every time.
That's perfectly understandable. Trenton, on this one, man, I wish you could smell, because between Trent and my brother Kent, and even Michelle to a certain extent, that they really like the rye whiskeys.
Yeah.
And this one, I can immediately on the nose pick up that rye characteristics.
I get rye influence on this for sure. Even with my schnoz being a little stuffed up, I still get it quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, immediately, I can tell the influence on the rye cask.
And Dan, just so we know, like if we're doing any kind of marketing or if people ask questions about what this is aged in, are we free to say like what type of barrel, or is that sort of kind of a hush-hush thing?
I think that's, I think that's perfectly fine. I can't print it and.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not trying to get you in trouble or
I can't
anything.
brand it as much as
Okay.
such, but I'm if not, I'm sure someone will be contacting me after this episode to inform me that.
We'll take the blame for that.
I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to tell you all right now. From the first two tastes, this is going to be one of those that's like going to be really hard to choose, because they're both of them are really good already. I like the different characteristics that you have in each sip because of the finishing cast that's involved. This one's beautiful, Trenton. It really is.
I like that you can tell that there's rye influence in this. Like it's very apparent, which is kind of surprising.
It's a little citrusy almost.
Yeah.
You get, it's just really good. It's really good.
I like the peppery spice that you get in it. And keep in mind, take my my notes with a grain of salt here, but and then this might be putting you on the spot, Dan, but somebody asked, can you elaborate on the differences of a Panamanian to a Cuban, Jamaican, Colombian, Martinique, etc.?
Oh my gosh.
I've always been a fan of Panamanian, but I don't understand why.
Woo, that's a big question.
Now, and I'm gonna expound on that just for a second. In a very low level way. As rums are distilled around the world, excuse me, are some of them made specifically just from sugar cane, or some of them made specifically just from the molasses? Because up here, when I'm up here, you know, in certain cocktails, they say make sure you use a molasses-based rum.
Yeah.
Make sure you use a sugar cane-based rum. Make sure you use a Jamaican-style rum because of that funk influence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and I'll let you answer that just to the best of your abilities.
Yeah. No. So, all right, I will try to answer that in a hopefully a helpful manner. But so Martinique, that was thrown out there. So a lot of people associate Martinique with agricole rums, and agricole rum. Agricole is a term that is the French have instituted. It's a I'm not sure how to, but the rules are there are tight rules around this.
Okay.
And so agricole rums are made from the juice of the cane. So when they harvest their cane, they have a set amount of hours when they cut that cane to when they actually crush it to get the juice, and they go into fermentation.
Okay.
So you're going to get in agricole the fresh cut sense of that grass, that sugarcane grass, and it's very earthy.
It is grassy.
Grassy.
Is it young? Or is that not actually the case?
It's young in the sense of, well, agricoles can be sowed unaged,
Okay.
off the still, or they can go through aging as well.
Okay. I only say that because when I don't ever really use an agricole rum as a sipping rum.
Yes.
I will use it at a half ounce, usually no more than a half ounce.
In a cocktail.
In a cocktail.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, like anything else when you're cooking, you got to taste some things to see what you're getting into. To me, being a novice, I would refer to that as that's a very young rum.
Yeah.
But that may or may not be the case.
No, yeah. But you can come across some agricole producers are aging those rums quite a long time. And but you're typically right. A lot of the agricoles you're going to find are the clear white rums that are probably unaged.
Okay.
And a lot of people will typically use those for cocktails.
Okay.
And then you have Jamaican rums, which and so not all Martinique rums are agricole rums. They also make it from molasses as well.
I get it.
But Jamaican rums,
It's a broad subject.
it is. But a lot of times the Jamaican rums, it's going to be typically from molasses, but they go through a very unique fermentation process. And so a lot of people will refer to this dunder that they use in fermentation. And it's and don't ask me any technical questions about dunder, but it's their fermentation process that creates a very funky essence on the rum. And it's different from agricole, but it's very funky. And Trenton, if, you know, obviously you like some funky rums. You're a funky person, I think.
Oh, very.
What are you
very.
feeling better? Yes.
But so that's very different. But then you get into Panamanian rums or even Cuban rums. So they're going to be molasses-based and column distilled.
Okay.
And so compared to agricole, compared to the funky rums, and even you have some British-style rums that may be from, you'll get in Guyana or Barbados, which are going to be molasses-based typically, but, maybe a combination of pot still and column still. But the Panamanian Cuban rums are going to be, I guess, softer in the essence compared to those in a relative sense.
Okay. Understood. Very, very, very unique conversation.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
It's it's a big topic that I'm not doing any justice right here talking about, but
Did 10 times better than I would have, Dan, so don't worry about that. Good question, though. Good question, one that deserves maybe a little bit of research, too.
Well, we have a lot of questions for Dan up in here.
Oh, give him one more and we'll go to the next one. I'll pour the next one while you're asking.
Only Panamanian rum I've had is Ron Abuelo.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Can Dan let us know which distillery he contracts with?
Yes. It's not Ron Abuelo. It's Las Cabras distillery. So it's a different distillery than Ron Abuelo. Ron Abuelo is the largest rum producer in Panama. So you're going to see that one. But Las Cabras distillery is who I work with that this rum originated from. They're both actually located in the same province, Herrera province of Panama. And that's going to be on the, if you know Panama, you have Colombia and you have Costa Rica. And of course, on both sides of Panama, you have the Atlantic and the Pacific side. But our distillery is located on the Pacific side. And so it's not in a higher elevation, and that's where all the sugarcane is grown as well. Or not all, but a lot of sugarcane is grown within Panama.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm used to hearing, oh, yeah, we have an NDA that's, we can't talk about it, so that's cool. Carlos, I see Carlos is in here. Carlos, are you still planning on moving to Colombia? I vaguely recall you saying you were moving somewhere out of the States. Maybe I'm mistaken on where, but which one is this?
But this is a 9-year-old rum. This is finished in the old Fitz weeded barrels.
Okay.
Yeah, the old Fitz weeded barrels. I think this one was finished in the old Fitz 17-year, Trenton.
Probably.
That's one of our favorite ones,
Probably.
actually.
Yeah, I would love to get hold of those barrels.
I know, right?
That would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Oh, this just smells incredible.
I already took a tiny whiff, and it just blows my mind.
Spain.
I actually do know some of the Heaven Hill family, so maybe I need to call them up.
You should. I think you should, honestly.
Nicest family in the world.
Portugal.
Good.
Such
Good
down
to
to
know.
earth.
Good to know.
Down to earth, very nice family.
Good. That's always good to hear.
Yeah, Carlos, I'm too busy for an agricultural class or a geography class.
Where's he moving to?
He's moving to Portugal, not Panama.
Not
Hey, it started with a P.
Not Colombia.
No, yeah, not Colombia. I'm gonna blame it on my flu brain right now. So, you gonna be okay? You gonna fall over?
Man, this has just been fantastic. And truly, when we go to different tastings for rye
Oh my
whiskey,
God.
bourbon, for single barrels, invariably it is single barrel, right? And we discussed this before
Yeah.
we started too. When it comes to single barrels, you obviously can get one that's just dynamite.
Yep.
That's just wonderful. But you can also come across one or two that are just, that's not so good.
Yep.
But in the grand scheme of what they do, they batch it,
Sure. Yep.
before they bottle it. Invariably, when Trent and I and the others are at our tastings for picks, there's at least a couple that immediately we can go, oh, okay,
Right,
that one's out. So far, they're all in. That's all I can tell you. So far,
good.
they're all in. It's just going to be a very, very difficult decision to make. They're all really, really good.
It's funny to me, and when I buy barrels, I'm a small guy. I'm not buying a significant amount of barrels, but when I'll buy, let's say, 5 Weller barrels and fill them up with the same rum, age, and then when I go back and taste those 5, they're all different. And it's to your point. It's just
It is. It's the nature.
but that's what makes it also fun.
Yeah.
Each barrel is still, you would think it's the same, but it's putting off different notes.
Oh no. I thought I muted my mic. I think I just burped in the mic. I'm sorry, everybody. That's rough.
That's a Trenton classic right there. Folks are used to it. I have to ask you this question, though, Trenton, if you're able to taste well enough. I'm going to leave the Wild Turkey Rye Cask by itself, but in the first one that we tasted and this one now, we're basically tasting 2 weeded bourbon finishes. Do you have one of those that might be your favorite of the 2?
I'm trying to think. Is this the? No. Can you give me a little bit more of the Weller? I think I liked the Weller a little bit more just because it was just a tad sweeter.
I think the which one's your Weller?
This one. We've had a few people buy some.
Hang on.
A couple people are saying you're a great salesman, Dan, because they've purchased a couple.
Oh, good.
While you've been talking about it.
Well, there you go.
Well, I hope you enjoy. Thank you for buying.
No kidding. Yeah, I think Trent, to your point, I think the Weller barrel is a little bit softer, a little bit sweeter, where this Old Fitz barrel is a little bit more aggressive, but has a little bit stronger flavor too as well.
From what I can currently tell with my state of being, the Weller, like you can still get quite a bit of the rum influence in it, whereas the one with the Old Fitz is a little bit more on the bourbon. It's like a 50-50 mix, whereas I feel like the Weller's like a 70-30. Sure. You can still get that rum, and it only enhances the sweetness of the rum, but you still get like, oh, this seems like a little bit
I can go with that.
finished or a little bit oaky or something like that.
So just for the folks out there moving forward then in our decision making, then we would probably prefer the Weller over the Old Fitz, but I am keeping the rye cask in there though because it's a good mix. All right. If you don't mind, Dan, I'll reach over and grab that from you.
Yep.
All right, folks, this one is the 8-year-old. This one's finished in the Blanton's barrels. This one is 108.6 proof. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one has spent less time in that barrel compared to the first three that you've had.
Mm-hmm. But it's Blanton's. It's got to be the best one. It's got to be. Yeah, the hype is real. You know that. You live in you're a Kentucky guy. Mm-hmm. You know.
Well, that's actually a good segue because I got to ask, since you are a Kentucky guy, do you have a distillery that you lean towards a little bit more than others when you're sipping stuff that's not a rum?
That's a tough one for me. So I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. So typically growing up, so when I was a young lad, the premium bourbon. What do you think the high end premium bourbon was considered to be?
When you were a younger fella?
Youngster.
Oh.
Jim Beam.
Nope.
I'm trying to think when I was a youngster.
Oh, was it the 18?
No. Well, I mean, yeah, that's when I was a little bit older, but just Maker's Mark. I mean, that was kind of
okay.
And I'm talking, probably, in the 80s. So Maker's Mark was, kind of the hot item. But in Louisville as well, Old Forester was very big because that was a Louisville distillery, and so Old Forester was very popular. So that's a tough one. I still like Maker's Mark. My mom is in her 80s, and that's the only thing she will drink.
My brother's a huge Maker's Mark fan.
So I always have that because I have to have it from my mother whenever she comes visit.
Yeah.
But I love Old Forester because growing up in Louisville, we always had Old Forester.
Yeah.
But gosh, there's some Wild Turkey, rare breeds and Russells that I love, and Four Roses. I mean, so it's tough. I mean, I think to your point, I just like a lot of them.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And they're all different, right?
Yep.
So it depends what kind of mood my palate's in.
That's right. Yep.
Carlos says, "Oh, poor Kurt doesn't know that the chat wants him to buy all 4. LOL."
Sorry, Carlos.
Yeah, Carlos, I think you're right. They should buy all 4. I'm with Carlos. I like Carlos.
Well, you would like Carlos, that's for sure. You don't mind putting it out there.
Do you know offhand, Dan, what 10 states you're in?
Yeah. So I'm in Florida.
That's right. Take your time. I know. I get it.
Florida, Georgia, Tennessee.
Yeah, we found you in Tennessee.
Kentucky, Illinois, Kansas, Texas, Arkansas, Massachusetts. Oh, damn it. There's one missing.
We'll get one. We'll get it there soon. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
Arkansas. Did I say Arkansas?
Yeah, you did. You did, but unfortunately,
and Kansas. It'll come to me.
Louisiana?
Iowa?
No.
They'd sell out. Texas.
This is super sweet, Trenton, on the nose.
It smells like
it. Whatever you're getting out of it is like super nice, honeyed and sweet, really nice.
Dang it. That's exactly what I expected from Bland's. That's just like just syrupy.
That is just syrupy, honeyed. Gives you all the hugs. That's really good.
It's not bad.
I'm kind of surprised. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a bit surprised with that one, to tell you the truth. Blanton's, I feel, we've discussed it ad nauseum, and so has everybody else on Whiskey Tube. I think it's a good quality pour. I don't think it's sensational. I don't think, and I've used the terms on our channel, I don't think you should run over your grandma to go get one.
Yeah.
However, or extremely overpay for it, but I think it's a good quality pour. So in saying that, when you set this out here for me, I would say that gave me probably my least expectation, but right now it's given me a wow factor to it.
I'll have to share a secret. This is the second time I've bought Blanton barrels. And the first time I did, and I actually had the same impression of you. I enjoy Blanton's, but I'm not going to go out there and throw down a lot of money for it because I don't. I rather there's other things that I think are going to give me much more joy at that level. But I bought these barrels the first time because I knew they would sell well. Because I knew people would love having something finished on Blanton's because it's
connotation.
And when I bottled the first set of barrels, I was blown away with what happened in that barrel. It was exactly how you put it, and that was the experience I had. And then this is solid.
And I'm going to do the best I can with this. For me, Trenton, when you're speaking of the Weller barrel, the wheated, it gives you a little bit more of those light toffee notes. Those kind of marshmallowy type notes a little bit. The rye whiskey barrel gives you really gives you those, minus the minty. It's not like that, but it gives you those beautiful rye notes that are in there too. But this Blanton's gives you real silky smooth. It's just like Trent says, golden. It's honeyed. It's very light caramel. I'm really trying to get the right word because it's silky smooth. It's pretty delicious. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, this is going to be a struggle.
Wow. Yeah, that light caramel note is beautiful in there. Just think of some of your favorite real soft caramel chews that you've ever had. That's in there.
I'm not going to lie, I've never had a caramel chew.
That doesn't surprise me. We can probably find one in a drawer over here for you.
Yeah, they're probably harder than a brick.
Probably. That's good, dude. That's super good.
Well, I mean, one more. I mean,
what you got there?
But this one is Jack Daniels.
What's your thought on the Jack Daniels, Dan?
I'm not going to say. I think you need to taste it.
We need to try it. I set out the right amount of glasses, but I'm going to set out a few more because I wasn't aware of that last little sample.
Yeah, I snuck that in there.
That's all right. Hey, trust me, I'm not complaining. Okay, now I'll have to tell you this though, and we'll see because this is good observation for everybody out there. When you said Jack Daniels, I don't have a whole lot of expectations for this.
Yep.
Already tasting what I feel was just really good out here. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I could be completely wrong and have egg on my face,
or you might not.
Or might not.
Yeah. Thank you.
You bet.
Here, I'll do the duty this time.
Oh, thank you.
I'll make the trip.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Although Trenton, I don't know, I'm just talking out loud. With Jack Daniels, you have the Lincoln County process. You got the charcoal filtering that adds a little bit of sweetness and flavoring to thing. So I'm sure that imparts into the barrel as well. There might be some nuances from these Jack Daniels barrels that we're not going to get with the others.
What is the usual yield for a barrel?
So these are we fill them up, and so they're sitting there from 9 months to 16 months. I mean, so On average, we're yielding 39 to 46 packs.
Okay. A couple people asking, do you know which Jack barrel this is coming from?
I don't. I apologize.
Number 7, Coy Hill.
Right.
Now, Trent, I know that's your favorite.
I actually don't mind it.
I don't mind it either. I have to be honest with you, Dan.
No.
Personally, it's not nearly as what I've tasted in the first.
Yeah. No, I think
Just
that.
so, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or mean, and when anyone, I think it's good if somebody poured that. If you poured that for me when I came, one of these days we come to Panama or whatever, I'd sip it gladly.
Yeah. No. It's good, but I think, particularly even coming after the last one, I think you can. There's a stark difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can quickly.
Yes, that's a quick one.
And I think actually you took out the old Fitz as well.
We
right?
did.
Or did he?
No,
Okay.
we did. We did take that out for sure.
I guess I kept my mic on while I was eating my pretzel.
Trying to get
Just a nightmare tonight.
best to get with the program here, bud. Well, right now, Trenton, that means that let's go back for you and I, especially Trenton, at least just taste that rye cask one more time. My personal opinion, I love it. I wouldn't mind having a bottle of this. I really wouldn't. But I would have to believe that the majority of our patron group would enjoy either one of these two bourbon barrels more.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that Trenton would love, and my brother would love a rye cask finish bottle.
Or a barrel. He wants to buy a barrel too.
He's the boss. I know he doesn't like to hear that, but he's the boss.
Well, and
Great.
it's
great. A lot of rye characteristics there. It's great.
the fun thing about, particularly when I'm selling single barrels, is it's fun for me to see the individuals that are deciding on which barrel to pick when they are also saying, hey, the people that are going to be also partaking in that and enjoying that, saying, hey, it's really good, but I think my group is going to actually, this one is up their alley.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, we always try to, we always have our patrons first and foremost in our minds. We have, Trent and I feel we have, and this is our conversation, which you wouldn't even know nothing about. But here recently, we have picked several rye whiskey barrels in some of our trips. Trenton and Kit has talked me into it on a couple occasions, getting rye whiskey over the bourbon. And I just think this might be multiplying that. But I'm interested to hear what you got to say, if you can.
I like a good. Could I get a little bit more of the Weller? I'm sorry.
I'll be sorry.
That's probably my favorite so far. But I'm thinking okay, a lot of people are saying buy two. Can we get two? Like if we wanted to, or is it one? Yeah,
we could do two.
Hate to be
You guys
pulling your.
were gracious enough to invite me in your house.
Oh, well, that's not a big deal at all.
But
We are, Dan, honestly, you don't know us that well other than what you've seen on YouTube and so forth, but we are just exceedingly blessed with the community, that we have. We talked a little bit about before we started, especially our Patreon community. Just wonderful people that support us in every effort we do, and that doesn't even mean monetarily.
yeah,
There's a lot of ways that they support us, and it's felt, and it's just a really, really beautiful thing, honestly. So we have been trying to secure multiple barrels to pacify the numbers that we have in our Patreon group right now, to give more people opportunities to purchase.
right.
Is this something, Trenton, and I don't want to overstep any bounds at this point, and I'm not penciling you in on anything, but so everybody knows out there, what is an average a cost factor that we'd be looking at per bottle or something like this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just on a basic level, because I know what I paid.
Yeah. So generally, And so in each state and all that, it's different because you have taxes.
100%.
But
Yes.
for my single barrels, I try to hit a suggested retail price of $59.99 a bottle.
That's a great price.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Honestly, guys, Dan is being extremely generous with that price with the product that he's putting out that I'm tasting on this bar top, just so you know.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That's very generous cost factor. Now, Trenton, you have where he deals with the business side of this way more than I do. I'm pretty good at this kind of stuff. Trenton's got the analytical mind and the business side a lot too. And so the $59 is his cost, right, Trenton? So we have other costs that are involved too. And I'm not talking about costs that go in our pocket either. So what do you think then it would be roughly for our patrons to think about?
So because, and Dan, I know we haven't finalized this yet, but just like distribution,
No,
usually
we're
the channels,
kicking numbers.
usually the channels we go through is a flat $20 ship rate. If they buy more than two, it's like $5 extra. So for two, it could be $25. So 12 and a half. So it would be like $75 per.
So you're looking at between $70 and $80 per bottle. Is that what you're saying, Trenton?
Yeah. And the thing is that I'm not sure. This is our first rum pick, so I don't know what the demand is. This is all new to me. I know I know what the landscape looks like for our bourbon and rye folks, but this is all new.
Yeah, that's true.
The chat is just overwhelmingly positive with their thoughts. They're saying buy all five.
We can't do that.
But what I want to do, because I'm a fan of variety, surprisingly enough. We have two bourbons, we have a rye. So I know that you guys haven't tasted these, but what would you guys like to see? And let us know your thoughts in the chat. I can't guarantee you we're going to take everybody's, suggestions, but we'll kind of culminate everybody's thoughts and maybe use that to make a decision. But
How many people we have in the chat right now? How many people we have on?
242.
Okay, so it's kind of what I figured because we're a little bit out of our normal time slot.
Yeah.
What I can tell you, though, honestly, guys, is that when Dan put out this rye cast barrel that gives true rye whiskey characteristics influenced on the rum, the wheated, the same. It's very distinctive.
Yeah, they're all different.
It's all different.
Yeah,
but you can draw the parallel.
Right.
You can draw the parallel. So keep that in mind as well, too. But yeah, I Trent and I might disagree on this one a little bit too.
Yeah, well, and I think it goes back to you all knowing your community and what
Yeah.
you think they're going to enjoy the most.
Oh yeah, well, without question. Without question.
Overwhelmingly, it is a bourbon and a rye.
And I would assume that because you're going to have a lot of folks out there that are very specific and they love that rye, and some of them are going to be very specific. They don't like rye.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me too.
It's either bourbon and a rye or all three. But well, I'm seeing a couple more Blands and Wellers. This will sell out. Unique alone. Trend, we definitely need that rye. Blands and rye. Paid $120 for the Hawaiian rum and bourbon barrel. Let's go. Weller and rye are all three. Eddie, that's not. I do like the rye. I think it's definitely indicative of a rye. You could get that influence. You can tell that it's in there.
Yeah.
Where I'm really kind of stumped though is the
Weller,
bourbon,
the Blanton's, right?
because they're both so different.
Then they're both excellent. The best. If you can in the chat, let Trent know. I'm going to give you my personal, honest opinion. I wouldn't be unhappy with either the Blantons or the Weller. I will tell you that the Weller, and please correct me, Dan, if you or put your input in. I feel the Weller does have a little bit more of that toffee-ish type of influence to it, to where the Blanton's a little bit more lighter on that flavor profile with the beautiful caramels and honeys, to where this Weller wheated is a little bit more toffee-ish. Trent, does that make sense to you?
I get a little bit more depth in the Weller.
I understand.
The Blands is a little bit more.
A little bit of the toffee, whereas a little bit richer.
Yep.
But I love this one too.
There's a lot of trust you both, even sick Trent. Hey, thanks, Chris.
Another thing too we haven't talked about, but that I'm sipping this stuff and they're all roughly around 110 proof, and they're not coming off like that.
No, I don't think so.
No, these rums typically drink softer than the actual alcohol content, which is I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I mean,
No, I like that because I'm not a huge super high proof fan. A lot of bourbon drinkers these days, the craze is the cask strength with these enormous proof points.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand that because the flavors can be more concentrated and rich.
Exactly. Yeah.
But in the process, man, it's just whew,
Yeah.
not everybody's going to enjoy that.
No. You're right. There's definitely a crowd that loves that and wants that.
Yes.
But I think there's, the majority of people are probably more interested in or feel more safer with a. I mean, this is still high proof though. This is,
It is.
Yeah.
No, it'll catch up with you. But my point is on the palate, it's very soft.
Yeah,
And very nice. It doesn't really. Your first sip, you wouldn't go, oh my god, that's 110 proof. You just wouldn't think that.
No, you're right.
What was the comments, Trenton, on that? Because
I'm gonna put a straw pull up here.
oh boy, I'd do it for him, but I'm back here.
All right, guys, I just pinned the straw poll to the chat. If you can vote on it and let us know. I honestly think, going back at it, the Bland's is a little bit more smooth, whereas the Weller's a little bit. It's almost like a Weller full proof versus a Bland, like a regular Blanton's.
100%.
And I think the full proof-ishness of the Weller one kind of overpowers the rum just a tad.
But it still develops in a really beautiful
It does,
toffee type.
yeah.
I'm just surprised at myself that I like the blends as much as I did. I didn't expect
good.
that.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
really did it.
It's really good.
It's good.
It's really good.
I'm just trying to explain to the folks the best I can of, they can make the choice, but I wouldn't be unhappy with either one.
Yeah, it's tough because they are so different from each other, and they're both good, but in different ways.
100%.
Yeah, we're currently sitting about 70% for Weller.
I kind of figured that would happen, and that's okay. I'm all for that. I really am. I'm good. So,
I voted for Weller, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, so many of these, and I would love to do all three or do 375s, but
Well,
you can't just take a 750
No.
and split it to a 375. That's different glass. You gotta get a whole new TTB label for it and the SKU and everything, right?
Yeah, and I don't have
Yeah.
375s
Now,
unfortunately.
the good thing is, I'm going to have to assume, Dan, that if things go well through this whole process, I think we could see each other again next year.
Yeah,
Would that be something that you'd be in favor of?
I would love that.
Yeah,
maybe
so-
maybe we can convince
yeah.
you to come down to Panama and do a pick there.
All right. All right.
Get my passport by then.
Yeah, we both have to work on
Yeah.
that. But so keep that in mind, folks. I mean, if things go well, Dan's a businessman, first and foremost, and he has his passion here with this rum. But if things go well with all of us, if the bottles are purchased, which I fully expect that they will be, and everything on the business end goes well for Dan, I'm sure that we can figure out something again for next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. So, all right, Dan, thank you, buddy.
Hey,
I'm going to have to say at this point, then we're going to pick this Weller
You got it.
full proof, and then we're
right.
going to go with the rye cask.
Awesome.
I think that's solid on your all's part. I hope you appreciated the fact that we are trying, Trent and I are trying with Dan's expertise to give you the options here. And I'm thrilled with both of them, to be quite honest with you. And I can't thank you enough for taking your time to come down here with us and share with the good folks out there. And there is a little bit of time difference here, and it's difficult for everybody to get on. But I'll promise the video, the live stream will be available for the other folks later on, right, Trenton?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there's going to be
Yeah.
quite a few that are going to watch it a little bit later as well.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, I'm so happy you guys invited me to come visit you and go through this.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone loves these picks. I think they're a lot of fun. These are still sitting in the barrel in Panama, and so we're gonna bottle these. Typically, we target July to bottle them. So just to make you aware, and then we have to go through shipping it. We put it on a freighter in the Panama Canal.
Yep.
Ship it up.
Yep.
Get it. So
Yep.
hopefully September-ish. It's
Okay.
going to be.
Keep that in mind, everybody. We spoke about before. We deal specifically with distilleries. I mean, Some distilleries will jump up stuff real quick and get us to it in a month or so.
Yeah.
You know, but everybody has their own schedule, so I think that works perfect. Could you imagine having this rum when the fall comes through? It's perfect timing.
Yeah. No, I think people
Fall
are gonna,
into the holiday time.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Perfect timing. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm going to share just a few things with the good folks here.
You got it.
Have
Absolutely.
a rest. You've been standing for a while. You've been driving everything. I honestly, Dan, I had a great time doing this. I really did. You got anything you want to say, Trent?
Well, Dan, we had several people ask, they said, "Hey, I'll meet you there." Do you have like a? Is this a tourable facility or?
In Panama?
Yeah. So the facility,
Wow.
it's not a. They don't have open visitation.
Okay.
But if I happen to be down there when you come, we could potentially arrange something. So
Okay.
I'd have to be there. But it's not like a Buffalo Trace or Americas. They don't have visitation open like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, for those who asked, that might be a possibility. We'll keep you posted. I think Kurt has a couple things to talk about, right? Maybe.
Yeah, just a couple things, about 10 minutes, guys, honestly. And if you could hang on just a few, this is very important. Trenton, as always, intervene when I say the wrong thing or if I'm not quite 100% correct, because you're in tune a little bit more than I am on the business end of everything that's SLB. However, I do want to express to you our feelings and our plans moving forward with SLB Drinks. When I was in Arizona, I probably received at least 15 messages via Facebook and Instagram concerning perks and so forth. I actually, in all in a good way, everybody was nice and kind. Nobody was out of line, including myself, in answering those messages. But Trent, one in particular asked, "Is this a scam or is this something that we're really going to get?" And it was said in genuineness, and his response was kind as well. But I think the problem that Trenton and I have, especially Trenton, is that when we send out perks, we want it to be top notch. And Trenton, I think, is even more than me. It's just he's consumed with it to the fact that he wants it the best of the best. We don't want you to have something that's second rate, just some cheap knockoff garbage that we can put in a box and send your way and call it a day and go, okay, well, that's done. Okay, but that's just not what we want to do. So I want to address really quickly the whole flask. I saw the flask in completion. Trenton was sent some, all the pieces together in a small package, so you can at least have one. And it's beautiful. I mean, it is over the top nice. It is on the way. Now, Trenton, this is where you're going to have to help me. It's hilarious how all this happened, but I believe Harry introduced you to the gentleman that you're working with, Harry from Bees Liquor, that we're working with in producing these perk items that we're needing, right?
Not a direct introduction, but they oddly enough happen to be from the same location. We've been working
I apologize to make you talk, dude. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
You just have more knowledge than I do.
This is the same company that makes all of the glass for Heaven Hill. All of their bottles, Elijah Craig, regular quality house. Anything that comes from Heaven Hill comes from these guys. They're capable of producing about 10 million bottles a day. It's a very large facility, and we're very fortunate enough to be working with such a large company that really kind of takes pride in the work that they do. I was told that. So just for some context, all of the I'm losing my train of thought. I apologize. All of the glass items that we're sending out for perks, which is most of them now, are coming from the same factory. We've had several samples sent our way, and they're very good. And I want to continue to use them when we can. Unfortunately, I was talking with them the other day when I woke up. I was told that all of the items, the Black Glencairns, the flasks, the rocks glasses, any other thing that we have coming that are glass are coming from this manufacturer. I was informed that they were supposed to be sending stuff on May 1st, all the stuff at the same time, which would be great because then we could get the flasks out and all the perks for this year.
Which, folks need to know too. being from overseas, to send them all together is a massive benefit cost-wise. It would be way more money than we could afford or anybody could afford if we're going to send them in pieces.
And we did. There was, issues with the Red Sea, and there were issues with, the Baltimore Bridge. So the ports had to be switched and all this other stuff. I didn't think I would ever be, I don't want to say an expert, but knowledgeable about sea freight. But it has gotten to that point. And then we have the was it the Glen Carey case for the $25 tier, which are on the way. This is real black Napa leather. It's really nice. We went through a couple iterations, a couple different linings in on the interior and everything, clasps, all that stuff. It looks really nice. Those are in progress. Those will be shipping here in the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. But the factory that is making our flasks actually had a furnace fire, and it burned half of their facility down, unfortunately. So I cannot make this stuff up. I promise that we have the initial iterations of the flask here. We have the leather for the flask. We have the box for the flask. All that we're waiting on is the brass knurled caps, which we paid to help this facility upgrade their machinery to be able to do this. And then the actual not embroidered, the embossed glass for the flask. So I promise you they're coming. Eric Knight firsthand saw the quality of those the other day. He was very fortunate enough, or not fortunate, he was very nice enough to come out and help us with some of the blind box packaging.
The thousands upon thousands of samples we had to fill in boxes.
Yeah. So I gave Eric a preemptive what do they call those? Prototype that I had in my desk that we had been kind of storing up to test for quality and stuff. So he was able to get one of those for his perk. But I think I was talking to them this morning, either this morning or yesterday. I honestly can't remember at this point. I'm going to be working with them to ship the flasks early because of this furnace fire that they had. Those things are going to be delayed a little bit, but I'm going to try and get the flasks through air freight as quickly as I can. But the air freight is more expensive, so we're going to try and find a few alternative shipping methods with good delivery times as we can. But I really appreciate all the patience and everything from everybody. I know it's frustrating for you. It's frustrating for us. If we knew that this was going to be a year and a half kind of a project, we probably wouldn't have even started it or said, hey, we're going to give this to everybody in 2 years or whatever, if you're still with us. But we are more than, if you are owed a flask and you're unable to continue your membership for whatever reason, we will make sure to honor that flask delivery when we get those in. As soon as I hear anything, I will definitely let everybody know. But just know that, like Kurt said, we're really focused more on the quality of the stuff than giving everybody second-rate plastic stuff that's just kind of more on a mass-produced scale. We like to do the low quantity, high quality type of stuff, even though it does take a little bit more. And then Sam asked, can we buy flasks separately if we're out of tier? Sam, these were just for last year's tiers only. This was a perk for last year. We may have a few extra that we'll sell around Christmas time at the end of the year this year, just for perks and everything. I don't know the final cost of that yet, but this turned out to be a lot more of a costly project than I anticipated, so I can't give you a cost on that as of right now, but just stay tuned for the end of the year. My throat is killing me, so I'm going to stop talking now.
Yeah, you can stop, man. Thank you for all that. That's 10 times more information than I could have put out there for you folks, because Trenton is one-on-one involved with all those conversations overseas and all that stuff. I basically wanted to bring it up today because of all the questions that we've received via messages, patron email, and trust me when I tell you, we're not upset about that whatsoever. Right? We want you to know that you will receive what you've been promised. And as Trent mentioned, if for some reason financially you cannot continue being a supporter of SLB, make sure you email. Make sure we know, so we can send you what you are actually deserved. Just a few more minutes here. We're gonna actually do some reorganizing within SLB Drinks as well. It's finally come to the point. And trust me, I tell you, Trenton is the type of individual, I know he sounds a little eccentric and off the wall and pretty funny when he's behind camera, and that's his true personality, so he's not making it up whatsoever. But also in his brain, he's very precise. and he's very possessive of certain things because he wants it the best. That's just who he is. But he's finally reached that bridge in his life between his career, which is extremely important to him, being a young fellow, which I fully appreciate, and I support him in that. He's finally come to the conclusion that he can't do it all on the levels that he's doing it in. So we are going to be bringing on even to a larger level my son Kyle, my oldest son Kyle. He's actually been doing all the shorts. He's been doing all that stuff and doing a great job. I think Trenton is going to slowly kind of get him into editing our long form videos. But more importantly, he's going to be dealing directly with perks, when to send them. He's going to be involved in all that so that we're going to effort ourselves into making sure that in the future, here within the next few months, that when you folks are on that cusp of the monthly, within 4 months, whatever it is, that within that 30 days after that, you receive what you deserve. That's what we're after. And in order to do that, this has gotten to be a really big, it's a lot, isn't it, Trent? It's a lot of stuff that we do, and it's a lot involved, a lot of responsibilities, so we need a little help. So I am thrilled. Kyle was kind of in between jobs anyways, and what was more important to me, too, was that Trent was the one that actually, it was easy for me being a dad to go, hey, Trent, Kyle, that I'm always leery of stuff like that within the family because I don't want any waves. I don't want any bad vibes in the family. But Trent's the one that actually had the conversations with Kyle to be able to get more done here. So I will be posting as we go along. I'm trying to hurry here because time is of the essence. It is Sunday. But we are going to be reorganizing our email. I am Trenton. Kyle will be approachable via email and for certain responsibilities, and we'll make that known to you what your needs might be. You know who exactly to email because Trenton gets hundreds every day, and there's no way, it's just no way on God's green earth that he can keep up with that, respond to everybody, and keep track of his normal responsibilities in a given day. So those will filter out between myself and Kyle as well. And then Raquel is going to be with us at more of a, that's Trenton's sister, more of a, I don't know, what'd you say? Not really a full-time level, but just in. She'll
be packing everybody's orders and stuff as they come in. Kyle will be more of this is what needs to go out to these folks, given their current tiers and what time frame they've been with us and everything.
Yeah, we're just trying to be more fluid is what we're trying to do. And so I just want to give you the heads up on that. We are in the process of that. We've already had conversations. Everybody's on board. And we just got to feel it out. And as we do, we will be posting to you so that everybody is aware. And if there is a need, you know who to talk to and how to get a hold of somebody. So that's all I have for you. Thank you for that. I was trying to hurry to get that out. I did want to address it drastically because we've had a lot of questions. And I personally have felt rotten that we haven't been able to get you your desired perks and so forth when we really need to. So we will get better. I promise you that. And these items will come in. And one thing I will promise you, you will not be disappointed. I guarantee you that you will not be disappointed. All right. Once again, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. I had a fantastic time. I had no idea we're going to walk away with 2 barrels, so I'm even more thrilled. I love the tasting. Everything you brought down was fantastic. So thank you so much for taking your time out and everything that you do in the world of rum and with Grandeur. And we wish you all the success in the world, my friend. You really do. And hopefully one day we will be able to join you in Panama.
Yeah,
that would be
great.
So much fun. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. We will be talking to you soon. Enjoy what you have left of this weekend. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.